Welcome to the PAWSCAST, and now here are our hosts, Vandivier and Tyjae B.
Hi everyone. Today we're joined by Norma Sosa, LCPC, and staff counselor of Frostburg State University's Counseling and Psychological Services. I'm Dr. Amanda Vandivier.
And I'm Tyjae Bolton, and today we're going to be talking about empathy.
So let's start at the beginning because there's a lot to talk about with empathy. So many different topics we could go into just under empathy. Mm-hmm. So how would you define empathy as pertaining to others?
Well, it's just the connection you have to other people. Mm-hmm. Basically, that's the simple way to explain what empathy is. Just the connection, be connected.
And how is that different from sympathy? Because it seems like sometimes those two can get intertwined or confused. So what's the difference between sympathy and empathy?
So obviously when we say connection, mm-hmm. the main connection, because there are going to be, that connection can be, other kinds of type of connections. It's going to be emotional. Mm-hmm. So empathy and sympathy is an emotional reaction to someone mm-hmm. going through a difficult time. Mm-hmm. But then after what happened after that first emotional reaction is going to make a difference. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. With empathy, this is when the connection comes, mm-hmm. After that emotional reaction. With sympathy, no, there's not that emotional connection to the person. Mm-hmm. So that is the difference. Mm-hmm. So I can give you an example. Maybe someone have, that's, I guess we can all connect to that emotionally. Someone, their pet died. Right. Mm-hmm. So I can tell you, yes, that really sucks. That's awful. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to take you a while to go through that awful feeling. Mm-hmm. But if I said like, oh, your pet died, that is really a very difficult event, experience. And, yes, I can understand, the pain you're going through. Mm-hmm. So that is more in that, empathy part. Mm-hmm. The sympathy, you acknowledge, but then you kind of separate too.
Yeah. So sympathy is like you really don't feel it, but you can offer your sympathy to someone, but not really feel that emotion. But empathy is like when you actually feel what the other person is feeling.
So you can feel with empathy. For sympathy, you can feel the emotion, but you don't stay with the person.
Oh, you're not invested.
Yeah, okay. You don't come and hug the person, that you will do with empathy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a really good way of differentiating. Yeah. It sounds like empathy is a lot more about connecting with the individual, and sympathy is just like, I hope you feel better and walk out the door.
Exactly.
Like, okay, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So what role has empathy played in your life?
Well, it's necessary with the kind of job I do. Mm-hmm. As a counselor. I think that's a very key part of counseling when you have someone coming and people out there in the community easily can offer sympathy, mm-hmm. but not necessarily empathy. Yeah. And that's something they, in this case, students find, coming to CAPS, that we provide that empathy, that understanding, mm-hmm. That connection. I may not necessarily go through the same experience, but I have the understanding, mm-hmm. how it means to go through your specific experience.
Yeah.
And why do you feel like that is so important in your job as a counselor dealing with other people?
Because there's a concept called validation. Mm-hmm. As a validation is when you really acknowledge, this person's emotions, thoughts, mm-hmm. What they're going through. And that is key to also important as a counselor role to have that, mm-hmm. that additional understanding to a person's situation.
So do you think that empathy is missing in our society, in the American culture? Are there places where you see like, oh, there's no empathy with that at all?
I think there is. definitely, I guess an example could be a person who maybe is struggling financially. And it's so easy to judge that person. Well, why don't you go to war when you're not doing this, So we can sympathize the person doesn't have money to buy food, like homeless people. But we cannot really understand why you homeless. Why don't you just go upon a job? That part is missing. That is one example where we can see the difference between also sympathy and empathy.
Yeah, I definitely see that also. Like there's a lot of problems where we just think it's the fault of the person who has that problem.
Right.
Like they for some reason deserve to be punished, or they deserve to live in poverty, or they deserve, but that's not really empathy. That's just saying, we're judging instead of being empathetic.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's bad that you don't have money to buy food, but
Yeah.
And
Okay.
So is empathy something that can be learned, or is it some kind of something that you have it or you don't?
And it could be that you don't have it. Obviously, you are a psychopath.
Yeah.
I know you find it, they say, I don't know, I am really against that. The people say, they, one of people researches that you can see that people are diagnosed with autism. I don't necessarily, go for that. But yeah, there are cases where they say, okay, you do not have empathy. But I think that we can connect, not learn, connect to have empathy. If we can just able to open to that, definitely. I think that's you learn to shut off some emotions, where that can also call your empathy is going to be minimized. So just learn how to connect it.
Okay. Do you feel it's possible to be too empathetic?
It could be possible, but then then you add more pity. Just go walk from being empathetic to having pity for the person. So yeah, that's possible, but that's transformed into that.
Yeah, I know. I've experienced that in my own life. Like sometimes I've been around people who are really sad, and suddenly I start feeling sad, even though it's not my own sadness. It's like I'm feeling their emotions. So that can be a real struggle sometimes.
But that is because we are talking here about concepts, abstract, but also we need to think what is going on, because not everything is explained with a neurological background. What is going on through my brain, when I'm reacting like this. So we know if I'm sad, my facial expression shows sadness. You two are going to feel that, because it's something called neuron system. This is what helps us to kind of reflect on a person, my facial expression. So that will help you to kind of have the same reaction emotionally as just by seeing my facial expression. But you have experienced that. Not necessarily maybe in the context, experience mine, but you can read my facial expression.
Interesting. So our brains will actually match what we're seeing in the people that we're talking to, and
those neurons,
and maybe even activate those emotions based on what we're seeing. Interesting.
So, this is very interesting to read, now that there's so much advancing, in the research for neurology, how the brain works. It helps to understand even more how we behave as human beings.
Absolutely.
And even non-human beings, you can see empathy too.
So do other animals feel empathy for each other?
Especially you are the same species, or even we maybe grew up together. And I found it.
So for someone who is struggling with being empathetic or showing empathy, what are some statements that you can say to someone to show that you're empathetic to their situation?
But there are keywords like, well, I understand, you know, what you're going through. Then other phrase could be also, you know, this is a difficult time, you know, I'm here. It's very, offer your presence is also a great way to show empathy. I'm here. You know, and sometimes we don't know how to handle someone having a difficult time because we jump to try to fix that situation, you know. But just, you know, I'm here. Simple like that, you know. Is anything I can do for you? Asking.
So usually when my friends are going through something, I always say, how can I support you? Is that an empathetic statement? Okay.
Yeah, different. It's another way to say, well, what I can do for you. You say, well, how can I support you? So you're not imposing your own perspective, or you're just giving them that, you know, that connection. That's our connected.
It seems like the key to empathy is connection, connecting to people. Yeah,
because you're saying, okay, I know you're going through a difficult time, I understand, but you tell me, what do you need from me?
Right. And I think that's super important because oftentimes when we're thinking about what it was like when we went through that same situation that they're going through, that we might start thinking, well, since they're going through this, what helped me during that time was this, this, and this, and just start jumping in and doing those things instead of taking the time to ask, what do you need? How can I support you? How can I be there for you? That's so much more important than fixing the problem, because often there is no fix to some of life's big problems.
No. You know, sometimes a person just needs you to be there. Yeah. To be the listener.
Absolutely. That makes sense. So what type of resources are there for people out in the community who are struggling with like empathy, having empathy, or maybe even needing empathy and not getting it at home?
Well, I think it's important to understand, you know, because everything starts with myself. If I find like, you know, I wish I could have someone, you know, I feel that's important to. Maybe go and find maybe people that you know, have some similarities, you know. I think also it's very important to don't expect too much from outside sources. And that's part of the validation I was talking about earlier. Self-validation. You know, so, okay, what do I need? What, you know, and maybe go and find that, you know. I think that's, you know, a very important part to understand too, that it's great to have the support, but also I need the first one to acknowledge, to understand myself. I think to, you know, counseling, if a person can feel open, you know, and not necessarily because I'm depressed or have anxiety or anything else, but sometimes I may be going through a difficult time in my life. I'm struggling, and it's amazing. Go to counseling, you know, and just maybe you just need to go for a month or 2 visits. And you can start seeing a change. You know?
I think that's a super important point right there, that counseling isn't necessarily just for people who are suicidal or schizophrenic or, you know, experiencing bipolar disorder. It's for everybody. If you're having a rough time, it's a good time to talk to somebody who has the ability to remain unbiased and to connect with other people and to just listen. Because sometimes that's all we need is someone to just listen and not try to fix.
Definitely. You know, working at college with the students, I have seen that. sometimes they just need to come once.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, I started feeling better. Right now I don't need to come back. So,
Yeah, just get it off your chest.
Yeah, so definitely that's a good resource for them.
Mm-hmm.
So what about the resources for the students on this campus in particular? What kind of things could they use to help them deal with empathy or if they're going through a rough time?
Well, for one, I said to go to camps, to learn to do self-validation, try to reach out with friends. We tend to isolate sometimes when we're not feeling good.
Yeah.
And stay in contact with friends, be active. I think that's one thing they can do. I think volunteer, being a volunteer is the great thing, because it's amazing when you go and you are not only active, but you give. It's amazing. You stop to, wow, it feels really good. Yeah. So that is a great way, to feel good. Just go and be active, volunteer. Be a volunteer.
Volunteering is really important because it helps us to get out of our own problems, and sometimes that helps us to realize the problems that we're experiencing maybe really aren't that big in the grand scheme of things. And so, volunteering is a really good example.
Yeah. And you go out and you're ready to do it, I think you're going to find that you're important. You're definitely important. You just need to be open to that.
Yeah. And that leads to that self-validation. Yeah. Great. Is there anything you would like to add on the discussion of empathy? Is there anything you feel like we maybe missed that you would like to add?
I think that's for those people, because I have experienced people saying, I don't have any empathy. I want them to, I guess, just really observe themselves. Because, I guess, I don't know, that's because someone told them you don't have any empathy. That's why I take, the belief that when you talk to this person, this person is showing empathy, but they're not seeing that, I think that someone believes they don't have empathy, they need to stop and reflect on themselves and just, see that's maybe not an accurate statement.
I think it's easy to be hardened in this world, but you still do connect with people. You connect with friends and family, unless, like you said, you're a psychopath.
And
then probably not.
Yeah, but not really. That doesn't. We just dismiss it, or we're not really connected to that side, because we tend, as a human being, we have the tendency to focus on what's not going well, or what I feel, or negative experience. We miss all those good things.
Okay. Well, we also want to remind everybody that FSU's Safe Office is also available for help. We provide peer counseling, we provide educational programming, and we also provide moral support. So if you would ever like to come in and pop in and say hi, we're always available. So thank you, Norma, for coming in today to talk to us about empathy.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
See you later.
Bye.
Thank you for being a part of our PAWSCAST. This health and wellness podcast is brought to you by the Prevention Center and the Peer Education Network at Frostburg State University. If you would like more information about our programs, visit us in Pullen Hall 109 or call us at 301-687-4761. Or you could also send us an email at safeoffice@frostburg.edu.